It's quite fitting that the start of our story begins on an August night in Chicago, Illinois. Being that I myself am a wrestling fan of a certain age, CM Punk to me was a hero. For what he did in the ring, for what he said on the mic, for how he carried himself, CM Punk to me was the biggest professional wrestler. Hart, Hogan, Warrior, Cena, Rock, none of them could hold a candle to how I viewed CM Punk. To be quite honest with you, the few years he was gone from the world of professional wrestling, it felt like there was a void. AEW finally gave the ability to somewhat fill that void. There was always that chance that finally something could happen to make all the pieces align. And that was the United Center the night CM Punk returned to professional wrestling. And since that moment that CM Punk walked back into a professional wrestling ring, there has been one match everyone has cried out for, everyone has wanted. CM Punk versus Maxwell Jacob Freeman. 8 years ago, you could have called this match a pipe dream. Now, this match, in my opinion, has single-handedly given us the future of AEW.
Do I have everybody's attention now? In anybody else's hands, this is a microphone. In my hands, it's a pipe bomb.
CM Punk and MJF. Everyone has salivated for this match. Everyone has wanted this match since CM Punk returned to a professional wrestling ring. Why is that? I mean, I feel like I don't have to introduce you to CM Punk, but in case I do, AEW would not exist without CM Punk. The wrestling world today would not be the same without CM Punk. If it weren't for that one fateful pipe bomb promo, I can honestly say the professional wrestling industry would not be the same today. And MJF would not be MJF without CM Punk. You see, CM Punk never fit into the mold of WWE. He never fit into the mold of what people commonly think is a good professional wrestler. His time in companies like ROH are stuff of legends to professional wrestling nerds like myself. His work in the Straight Edge Society, his programs with Jeff Hardy, his later runs with the WWE Championship, his match at Money in the Bank, and his match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29 are some of the best works of professional wrestling that you will ever find on the planet. But, much like the Avatar, when the world needed him most, he vanished. And while people may have their opinions on what CM Punk did outside of the wrestling ring, many like myself hoped that one day the straight edge superstar would somehow return, that our straight edge, slick back haired, tattooed savior would someday come back to professional wrestling and save it from the slosh WWE was putting out. But funny enough, him walking away, I would say, is probably the best thing that could have happened to professional wrestling. While yes, I'd rather have had CM Punk over the past 8 years, look what's been created.
This is a revolution.
AEW 5 years ago would have been an insurmountable task to many. While some have tried to compete with WWE and failed, I'm looking at you, TNA, going against Monday Night Raw. I'm looking at all these companies that tried to compete with WWE instead of focusing on their strengths and doing the alternative. Giving fans that have grown tired of WWE and tired of what they have been given by WWE and growing that fan base and showing that professional wrestling could be more than WWE's version. This is where we get more unique characters. We watch a dinosaur go out there and wrestle every day. We watch a man have a half-painted face and hit people with a thumbtacked skateboard every day. Hell, with AEW, we saw the return of Sting. If you would have told me that in 2017, I would have called you a liar. But more importantly, AEW has done what a lot of other companies have failed to do, which is not only bring in older talent to draw in fans of WWE's product, they have also built up their own base, and they have also built up their own talent. And that's what brings us to the man himself, Maxwell Jacob Freeman, MJF.
And I can assure you, now that you're standing in my ring, in my company, things will be no different, because you may claim to be the best in the world, but I'm better than you. And you know it.
The art of the heel has somewhat been muddled in the past years of professional wrestling. As smart fans understand the business more and more every day, as the kayfabe curtain has lifted more and more every day, it is honestly hard to find a true heel. And MJF is the personification of that. While people will be divided amongst the wrestling community, whether it's people saying that current fans aren't patient, or that characters don't exist anymore, or that real men, air quotes, don't exist in the business anymore back in the days when we had guns and knives in the locker room, MJF has been the one constant that everyone can agree on is doing amazing work. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew a lot about MJF's work outside of All Elite Wrestling. But after some research with his work in promotions like CZW and MLW, he's been the same character. He's been the same salt of the earth. I mean, he did the ultimate heel move back when it was cool to cheer Cody Rhodes and made sure that man could never, ever compete for the world title in AEW. He has been the most consistent heel in the world of professional wrestling. Maxwell Jacob Freeman has been able to go into the ring and battle with everyone from Chris Jericho to Cody Rhodes to even his peers like a Sammy Guevara or a Darby Allin. And every single time he has been able to show up and outshine every single member on the roster. So when these two titans, when these two enigmas in the wrestling world, one a rising star and someone that we could look out for to have an amazing career over the next 20 years, and one finally back and welcome back to the flock of professional wrestling, it is almost like it was written in the stars that these two would collide.
That was what it was too. That may be the winner right there. The roundhouse kick drops MJF.
But honestly, this program started the best way it could. Just a simple handshake, MJF introducing himself, and Punk not even acknowledging him. Why is that important? Because to anyone who understands and is a fan of professional wrestling knows that while MJF's character will call people marks on Twitter and give people crap for doing art of him, at the end of the day, he is as big of a professional wrestling fan as anyone else is who goes out there on weekly television. So the idea, the knowledge that he doesn't have the respect and the admiration for somebody that frankly is a hero to him, there it is. There's your match, period. And AEW got out of the way and allowed the match to happen. And the match itself was great. Everything that makes an MJF match was great, combined with Punk's amazing in-ring psychology, how CM Punk sold the arm, sold the leg so he couldn't do the GTS, the restart of the match after they found out MJF had cheated to win, and then how Wardlow interfered. It's a recipe for a great match. And they let them do their thing. And it was 25 minutes of some of the best professional wrestling and may I dare to say sports entertainment I have ever seen. And as much as it pains me to say it, but on a February night in Chicago, Illinois, the right professional wrestler went over. CM Punk told a really good story on a podcast before he came back to professional wrestling about how Eddie Guerrero was wanting to put him over in ICW before he went back to WWE. And Punk, to me, has always been a person that has wanted to put over younger talent. And I mean, I don't think that that's a personal opinion. I think that's certified fact. We've seen this with how he's worked with people like Daniel Garcia and Darby Allin. But CM Punk's first loss in AEW was always going to be a momentous occasion. It had to be to the right person. So that's why it had to be MJF. Punk legitimately wants to put people over, which is great to see. And in a business where everyone tends to look out for themselves, Punk seems legitimately selfless, which is something you can't say for a lot of people in the professional wrestling industry. You know, going back, they talked a lot about the pillars of AEW. They talked a lot about who was the future Restones of the company. And of course they had the Pillar t-shirt that came out, and they had the whole thing where they replaced MJF with Britt Baker. But if you notice here with this long-term storytelling, we have Jungle Boy holding down the tag titles. We have Britt Baker with the Women's Championship. We have Sammy and Darby holding on to the TNT title. And there stands Maxwell. No title. Yet. Mark my words, by this time next year, MJF will be AEW World Champion. Because frankly, he's better than you, and you know it. Thank you guys so much for watching Extreme League Wrestling. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe for more wrestling content. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.